All right, greetings everybody. Here we are again, and I want to jump right into it. There's a few things I want to get done today. First thing that I want to do is go through the homework that I assigned. I think I just signed 2, correct? Exercise 3.5, exercise 3.2. Is that right? Okay. All right. Let's go ahead first and do exercise 3.5. Okay? Exercise 3.5 gives you 4 different scenarios for supplies, right? Now, we can, you may not have had to do this, but one way that you could certainly do this is to do our good buddy, the T account, right? And is supplies a normal debit or credit balance account? It's a debit. So the beginning balance would be shown here, and the ending balance would be shown here. Okay? How is supplies increased or debited? When we purchase supplies, right? So purchases of supplies would be shown here, and ultimately we're going to make our AJE and decrease supplies for the supplies used. Is that correct? So you're going to have a number here, 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 here. Now in each one of these scenarios, A, B, C, and D, they give you 3 of those numbers, right? And they ask you to compute the 4th one, okay? Now we know from algebra, if we have an equation and if there's only one unknown, we can solve for it, right? Okay? All right, so what was the supplies expense? Now, looking back at the Elmo, the supplies used will be the supplies expense, won't it? Okay? Make sense? The amount that's used will be the amount that we expense in our AJE. All right? Okay, so what is the supplies expense in situation A? What would we get when we figured it out? Yeah, I know we initially don't know it. It's $2,000. It's $2,000. Okay, did you guys get that? Okay. All you're doing, going back to the Elmo, put in the 3 numbers they give you and solve for the one that they don't give you. Okay? Knowing that that plus that minus that equals that. Okay? Okay, situation A, $2,000 is the question mark. Situation B, what is the supplies that are available at year end? Anybody get it? You guys are sleepy today. 6607. 6607 for situation B. Okay? What about the supplies purchased in situation C? Somebody tell me good and loud. 11,987. Yes. $11,987. Okay? And then what is the beginning balance? Or they say supplies available at the prior year end. Well, the prior year end is the current year beginning balance, correct? So what is that amount for situation D? Do you know? You're close. I didn't get quite that. Oh, actually, I think you're off a little bit more. Did you say 13,000 something? Yeah. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's do that one real quick. Okay. All right, going back to the Elmo. Okay, what do they tell us? They tell us the amount purchased during the year was 6,907. They tell us the amount available at year end is 800. And and the amount that we expense is 7482. So this is our question mark. Let's call that X. Okay? So X plus 6907 minus 7482 equals 800. Okay? Now once you have that equation written down, you can solve that algebraically, right? Okay? That's a pretty easy algebraic formula, okay? Equation. So if you don't know how to solve that, that's probably a Math Resource Center sort of deal. Come to JCCC, go to their Math Resource Center. They'll help you on that, okay? All right? So when we solve for X equals, I think 1375. Isn't that right? Okay. All right, any questions on that? All right. Okay, I got to watch my shadow today. It's going on that Elmo. Okay. Let's go to exercise 3-2. Now this is the one. This is the one. How was this? Was this hard? Did you get it? Okay. This is the one that I could guarantee there'll be something like this on the test. Okay? So if you don't know how to do exercise 3-2, now if you don't know how to do it now, that's fine. That's why we're here. But if right before the test you don't know how to do it, then you're going to miss a lot of points. Because we'll probably have at least 6 or 7 AJEs on the next test. They'll be worth 3 points each. You know, 3 times 7, that's 21 points right there. Okay. Now I will tell you, AJEs are just the sort of thing that you just have to do a number of them before you really get it. Okay? So let's go through these, okay? Exercise 3-2. All right. Prepare AJEs for the year ended December 31, 09. Now I always want to make a note as far as what date are we making our AJEs as of. And in this situation, we are making it as of December 31 of 09, okay, for each of these separate situations. Okay. All right, depreciation on the company's equipment for 2009 is computed to be $16,000. Okay, we don't even have to figure that out, do we? Okay, so let's go ahead and look at that one. Okay, depreciation expense is debited. Accumulated depreciation is credited. What type of account is accumulated depreciation? It's a contra asset. Debit or credit balance? It's a credit, normal credit balance. Okay? You don't have to put the explanations up there, of course. Okay? All right, the next one. The prepaid insurance account had a $6,000 debit balance at December 31 of 09 before adjusting for the cost of any expired coverage. We do an analysis of the company's insurance policies, and it shows that 640 of unexpired insurance coverage remains. Okay? So, what we're talking about here is it's currently showing a $6,000 balance in there. But we do a count as far as how much is really there, how much remains, and there's only 640. So how much has been used up? 5,360, is that right? Okay. They tell us that balance, they tell us how much is left. We need to figure out how much was used up. So there is our AJE. Prepaid insurance is credited, insurance expense is debited. Okay? All right, questions on A or B? Let's go to C. The office supplies account had a $325 debit balance on December 31 of 08, and $3,480 of office supplies were purchased during year. They do a count at the end of the year, and there was 383 available. Okay? We're going to go right back to this thing, aren't we? Right back to the situation that we did. We're going to put in the numbers that we know, and we're going to calculate how much was used up. Okay? What number did you get on C? 3422. Good. Okay? So we decrease office supplies and we book an expense. Okay? We book an expense. Okay? Any questions on that one? Okay, let's go to D. 1/5 of the work related to $15,000 of cash received in advance was performed this period. Okay, we received cash of 15 grand earlier. We hadn't performed the work, so the entry we made previously was we debited cash, and what did we credit? Unearned revenue, which is a liability. Now, how much of that $15,000 liability have we now satisfied by doing some work? $3,000. So we can reduce that liability by $3,000, and we can book it into revenue or fee revenue. Okay? All right. E. The prepaid insurance account had a $6,800 debit balance at December 31 of 2009 before adjusting for the cost of any expired coverage. Now listen carefully the way that this sentence is worded. It's worded a little differently than B. It tells us, an analysis of insurance policies shows that 6160 of coverage had expired. Now you see the difference here? In B, they told us the ending balance, and we needed to compute the amount that was expired, because the amount that had expired during the period is the amount of the AJE. Here, they tell us right out the amount that expired. Okay? 6160. So that's how much goes into the AJE. Okay? The amount that had expired. Okay, questions on that one? Let's do one more and then I'll see if there's any more questions. F. Wage expense of $2,700 has been incurred, but we haven't paid them. So we need to book a liability, don't we? We need to show that we do owe $2,700 of wages. So the journal entry for that is we credit wages payable to show that liability, and we debit wages expense. Okay? Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. Are wages the same thing as salaries? If you'd have put salaries expense and salaries payable, I'm okay with that. Does anybody know the difference between salaries and wages? Huh?
No, wages are hourly.
Wages are hourly.
Okay.
So if Brett worked for me and he made $12 an hour and he punched a clock and kept track of how many hours he worked, he has wages.
You don't work for the hours in your salary.
Yeah. Now, a lot of you probably work who here works part-time? You probably work hourly, right? So you have wages, okay? When you graduate, you might go get a full-time job and you get paid a salary, which means you get paid, $65,000 per year. You don't punch a clock. At that point, this is the job you need to get done. Some weeks you'll work 40 hours, some weeks you'll work 60. Okay? And this is just how much you get. That's salary. But on a test or quiz, if you intermix those terms, that's not a big deal. Okay? Cool? Other questions on exercise 3.2? Anything? What we're going to do now then, folks at home do the same. We are going to work on exercise 3.3, which is another 6 or 7 AJEs that we're going to make. Okay? You guys can work together if you want. At the very least, you can compare your answers. I really like it when in these sort of situations where when you're working on homework here in class where you compare answers. Because if two people get a different answer, I'd like you to guys try to figure out who's right and who's wrong. Okay, that's a great way to learn this stuff. So let's take a few minutes. Let's roll that snazzy JCCC music. And let's work on exercise 3.3. We'll come back in a little bit and we'll go over it. You folks at home, do the same, okay? See you in a few. All right. Okay. Let's take a look at exercise 3.3 and go through these. Was this any easier than exercise 3.2 now that you've been through it once? Okay. That's what you got to do with these crazy AJEs. You just got to keep doing them and they'll get easier. Okay. Let's go through these. Exercise 3.3. Once again, we are making AJEs as of December 31 of 09. Okay. All right. A. 1/3 of the work related to $15,000 cash received in advance is performed this period. So what is 1/3 of 15,000? $5,000. Okay. So we decrease our unearned revenue by $5,000 by debiting it, and we book it as revenue. Okay. B. The prepaid insurance had a $6,000 debit balance at December 31 of 09 before adjusting for the cost of any unexpired coverage. Oops, I hopped over to exercise 3.2. Haha. Okay, sorry. I was going, those numbers look real familiar. Exercise 3.3b. Sorry about that. Wages of $7,500 are earned by workers but not paid as of December 31 of 09. Yeah, we have to book that wages expense and we have to record a wages payable. Okay? Exercise 3.3c. Depreciation on the company's equipment for 09 is 17251. So what do we do? Yeah, depreciation expense is debited and accumulated depreciation is credited. D. Office supplies account had a $240 debit balance on December 31 of 08. Now they purchased in 09 6102 of office supplies. And then they do a count at the end of the year. There's 660 supplies left or available. So how much supplies were used up? Whoa. You went the wrong way. That's all right. Okay. 5682. Did anybody get that number? You did? Okay. 5682. All right. Same way that we did the other ones. E. The prepaid insurance account had a $4,000 balance at December 31 of 08. An analysis of insurance policies shows that 1,300 of unexpired insurance benefits remain at December 31 of 09. So how much was used up? 2,700. So we decrease that prepaid insurance by 2,700 and we book insurance expense of 2,700. Okay? Okay, F. Is this one hard? We haven't done one like this, have we? Okay, that's all right. That's why we're here. F. The company has earned but not recorded $1,400 of interest from investments in CDs for the year ended December 31 of 09. The interest revenue will be received on January 10th of 010. Okay, so at the end of the year, we have earned $1,400. Now they're not going to pay us that day; they're going to pay us later. But this is an accrued revenue. We need to show an asset on the book and we need to show a revenue on that book because we have earned it. So the entry here is to interest receivable and interest revenue. Okay? Not accounts receivable. Accounts receivable is used to keep track of regular sales to customers on account. But interest receivable, which is also an asset, and we want to book it to interest revenue. Okay? These are investments and certificates of deposit that we have, and we've earned some interest on it. Okay? Questions on that one? If not, let's go to G. The company has a bank loan and has incurred but not recorded interest expense of $2,000 for the year ended. they have to pay the interest on the second. Okay, this is kind of the flip side. At the end of the year, we owe interest of $2,000. We don't have to pay it, but we do need to show that liability, and we need to book that expense. Okay? So the entry there is a debit to interest expense and a credit not to accounts payable, but to interest payable. Okay? Now we're learning some new accounts as we went along, and somebody asked about accumulated depreciation during the break. What I encourage you to do is, with those flashcards that hopefully you have made by this point, as we learn these new accounts, get out and create new flashcards for each one of these accounts. Okay? All right? So that you can put them into the mix. All right? Okay, any questions on exercise 3.3? Okay, if not, what I want you to do is, do you care if we let out class early? I'm just kidding. We're not going to let class out early. That was just a joke. What I want you to do, I'm sorry, that was mean. What I want you to do is I want you to do, listen carefully, page 118 in your book. I want you to do exercise 3.6, but just letter C. Okay? Just letter C. Exercise 3.6 C. Now you do have to read the top part of it, which I'll read right now. The following three separate situations, this is exercise 3.6. The following three separate situations require AJ East to prepare financial statements as of April 30th. For each situation, present both the April 30 AJE and the subsequent entry during May to record the payment of the accrued expense. So all I want you to do is exercise 3.6C. Okay? You folks at home, you do it too, okay? See you in just a couple minutes. Okay, let's take a look at this together. I know this is a little harder one, and most of the time students, they don't get this one, and I don't really expect them to. But I at least want them to think about it a little bit before I show them how to do this kind of problem. Okay, let's take a look at exercise 3.6c. Okay, we are preparing our financial statements as of April 30th. Okay? Now let's jump down to C. Total weekly salary expense for all employees is $12,000. This amount is paid at the end of the day on Friday of each 5-day work week. April 30 falls on Tuesday of this year. Okay, so the way I think sometimes is helpful with this is to actually do a little calendar. Okay? So what we have here is April 30th is on a Tuesday, is that correct? So we have April 30, right? So this is April 29, 28, 27, 26, and so on, right? And April has 30 days, right? So this is May the 1st, and this is May the 2nd, and this is May the 3rd. Okay? Now, when do we prepare financial statements? As of the end of what day? At the end of 3rd. So we prepare financial statements right at the end of this day. Correct? Now, it says here that the policy at this company is that the weekly payroll is paid at the end of the day on Friday of each 5-day work week. Okay? So these employees, for this week, they got paid that day. For this week, they get paid that day, and so on. Correct? Now, the other thing that I think is always helpful to know here is I always write what is the daily payroll and what is the weekly payroll if they work all 5 days. Okay. What does it tell us is the weekly payroll for all the employees together? 12 grand. So what does that mean then the daily payroll is? Which is, how'd you get that? Divide by 5. The daily payroll is $1,200. Okay? Thank you. Okay? 2,400. Thank you, sir. Okay. So what we need to do, on April 30th, we're preparing financial statements. How many days have our employees worked? They have not been paid, but how many days have they worked? 2 days. This day and this day, correct? So we need to book 2 days worth of payroll here, correct? So what is 2 times the daily payroll? 4,800. So our AJE on 4/30 is we debit, is this, I think this is salaries, it says salaries, right? Salary expense for 2 days times 2,400, 4,800. And what do we credit? Salaries payable. That is our 430 AJE. You with me? Okay. Now, keep in mind, we do not pay our employees on April 30th. They're going to probably not know nor care that we make this entry. but we need to show the readers of our 430 financial statements that we owe $4,800 worth of salaries. And we need to make sure that those 2 days get booked in April. Okay? Now it also wants us to make the subsequent journal entry when the cash actually gets paid, doesn't it? You see that? When are these folks going to get paid? Friday, May 3rd. Okay? So, now this May 3rd entry is not an AJE. This is not an AJE that we're going to make here. Okay? This is the subsequent entry for the cash disbursement, okay? Okay, how much do we pay out for weekly payroll in total? $12,000. So we are going to credit cash for $12,000. Okay? Now, listen to the way that I say this. Of that $12,000 that we are paying out, how much has not yet been expensed that needs to be expensed? How many days? 3 days. We need to expense this day, and this day, right? So what is 3 times the daily payroll? 7,200. Salaries expense debited for 7,200. Okay? Well, that journal entry doesn't balance, does it? We need another debit for how much? What do you think gets debited? Salaries payable gets debited. Because we have now satisfied or extinguished that liability. These are my debits. This guy over here is my credit. Okay? Does that make sense? But I think sometimes it helps to visually write out a little calendar here, figure out what day that you make your financial statements of, ask yourself, what's my AJE? Well, actually before that, write out what your daily payroll is, write out what your weekly payroll is. Then ask yourself in your AJE, how many days do I owe as of the end of the year or end of the month? 2 times that, book that entry. And then when you pay it out, I ask myself, of that amount of cash that I'm paying out, how much has not yet been expensed but needs to be? Are you with me? Okay? Cool. Okay, questions on that? All right, what I want to do is give you your homework and then send you on your way. Okay? So let me put what the homework is up there. We're getting pretty close to being done with chapter 3. Okay? But I want to do as much homework as we can. So here is the homework. I want you to do these quick studies. I want you to do, this is not an exercise, it's not a quick study, it's a problem. It's on page 120 and 121. But I want you to do problem 3-2A, but just do A, C, D, E, and F. Don't worry about B. Okay? All right? And then I want you to also do, I want you to read page 106, and I want you to do quick study 311, which is in regards to the profit margin. Okay? So that's your homework. We'll see you guys later.